Intelligence. We claim to value it, reward it, and nurture it. Yet throughout history, the most brilliant minds have often found themselves isolated, rejected, or misunderstood. From Einstein being labeled a fool by his teachers to Tesla dying alone and broke, this pattern repeats endlessly. But why? Why do we push away the very minds that drive humanity forward? Arthur Schopenhauer, perhaps history's most brutally honest philosopher, uncovered this disturbing paradox nearly 200 years ago. His discovery wasn't just an interesting observation. It was a fundamental truth about human psychology that explains everything from workplace dynamics to why social media rewards simplicity over depth. The answer lies not in what intelligent people do wrong, but in what their mere presence forces others to confront. The most unsettling discoveries aren't about the world around us, but about ourselves. The uncomfortable truths we desperately try to ignore. And nothing makes those truths more impossible to deny than the presence of superior intelligence. While we celebrate wealth, beauty, and physical strength, intelligence triggers a unique kind of resentment, a quiet hatred most won't admit even to themselves. Schopenhauer discovered that intelligence itself becomes a mirror, reflecting back others' limitations. And people rarely forgive you for showing them what they don't want to see. This isn't just philosophical speculation. Modern neuroscience has confirmed exactly what happens in our brains when confronted with superior intelligence, and the results are disturbing. Think about social gatherings you've attended. Notice how conversations drift towards surface-level topics, obvious jokes, and basic observations. Watch what happens when someone introduces a complex idea. The room tenses, attention scatters, and the subject quickly changes. This isn't coincidence. It's a defense mechanism playing out exactly as Schopenhauer described 2 centuries ago. Studies show the same neural pathways activated by physical pain light up when people feel intellectually inferior. Our brain's threat detection system, the amygdala, fires when we encounter significantly smarter individuals, triggering the same response as physical danger. This explains why the reaction feels so instinctive and difficult to control. But here's what's truly fascinating. This response intensifies dramatically in group settings. When alone with someone more intelligent, the threat response remains minimal. Add more people, and it spikes. Our brains seem wired to protect our social status more than our private self-image. We're not just afraid of feeling stupid, we're afraid of others seeing us that way. This explains why the smartest person in a room rarely becomes the most popular. Intelligence doesn't just challenge ideas, it challenges egos. And human nature is designed to protect the ego at all costs, even if it means rejecting the very minds that could elevate society. Intelligence creates an unavoidable social friction, not because smart people intend to make others uncomfortable, but because their very existence holds up a mirror no one asked for. When someone smarter enters a conversation, everyone unconsciously measures themselves against them, not because they want to, but because they can't help it. It's like putting a professional athlete in a casual pickup game. Suddenly, everyone feels their limitations. The reaction isn't, "Wow, this person makes me feel dumb." Instead, people assume the intelligent person looks down on them, even if the smart person hasn't said a word about their intelligence. Others feel judged just by their presence. The smarter someone is, the less they might actually judge others, but that doesn't matter. People react to the mirror intelligence holds up, not to any real judgment. It's why you often hear things like, "They think they're so smart," about people who've never claimed to be smart at all. And this explains one of the strangest social paradoxes. Mediocrity makes people comfortable. Average minds have a special social power. They don't challenge anyone's self-image or accidentally make others question themselves. Instead, they make everyone feel good about their own level of thinking. Born in 1788 in Germany, Schopenhauer wasn't just theorizing about life from an ivory tower. He lived through the exact dynamics he wrote about. As a young lecturer, he scheduled his university classes at the same time as the famous philosopher Hegel, whom he considered a complete fraud. While Hegel's lectures packed the halls, Schopenhauer's sat empty. But instead of just growing bitter, he grew curious. Why did people flock to comforting nonsense while avoiding harder truths? He started watching how people behaved around intelligence, not just in universities, but everywhere. He observed the same pattern repeatedly. The smarter someone was, the more others found subtle ways to exclude them. Living modestly off his inheritance, Schopenhauer had the freedom to observe society without needing its approval. He watched how people gathered in groups, who they welcomed, who they pushed away. The patterns he saw weren't pretty, but they were consistent. Schopenhauer noticed something that science would take centuries to confirm. Intelligence creates a unique social dynamic unlike any other form of superiority. When you stand next to someone physically stronger, you don't necessarily feel weak. You might admire their strength. When you meet someone wealthier, you may envy them, but you don't feel personally attacked. But encountering someone intellectually superior creates an entirely different reaction. Unlike physical strength or material wealth, intelligence is closely tied to identity. We define ourselves by our thoughts, beliefs, and understanding of the world. So when we encounter someone who thinks on a deeper level, someone who questions what we take for granted, it feels like a direct challenge to our sense of self. Instead of admiring intelligence, many instinctively resist it, not because the deep thinker is arrogant, but because their very presence forces others to confront their own limitations. This is why throughout history, deep thinkers have been pushed to the fringes of society. Schopenhauer identified a striking gender difference in how intelligence is received socially. For intelligent men, rejection often comes as direct confrontation or subtle exclusion. But for intelligent women, he observed a double bind. They face resistance not just for their intelligence, but for breaking social expectations about how women should present themselves. He pointed out how society often forces intelligent women to choose between being liked and being respected. While beauty in women is celebrated, intelligence gets a different response. An intelligent, beautiful woman often faces more isolation than either quality alone would cause. Beauty attracts superficial attention, while intelligence pushes it away. Modern research confirms this observation. Studies show intelligent women often downplay their capabilities in social settings, something their male counterparts feel less pressure to do. They're more likely to face what psychologists now call the competence-likability trade-off. The more competent they appear, the less likable they're rated by both men and women. This dynamic isn't limited to gender. It plays out across every field. Mediocre artists received more exhibitions than brilliant ones. Average writers sold more books than profound ones. Not because people couldn't tell the difference, but because mediocrity never makes them feel inadequate. This pattern continues today, perhaps even stronger than ever. Look around your workplace or scroll through social media. The brilliant colleague who gets left out of lunch invites. The thoughtful posts that get ignored while simple memes go viral. It's the same pattern Schopenhauer spotted 200 years ago. In today's offices, we've given it new names. We talk about being a culture fit or having emotional intelligence. These qualities certainly matter, but how often is not a culture fit code for makes others feel intellectually uncomfortable? Even in tech companies that claim to value intelligence, the most successful people aren't usually the smartest. They're the ones who make others feel smart. Social media has made this even more obvious. Complex ideas get ignored while oversimplified hot takes go viral. Why? Because depth makes people think, and thinking makes people uncomfortable. It's easier to share a simple opinion that makes everyone nod than a complex truth that makes people question things. Even in education, we see it. Schools claim to value intelligence, but watch what really gets rewarded. It's usually not the most original thinkers, but the ones who make ideas simple enough for everyone to feel included. Here's the strangest part of how society treats intelligence. We need it desperately, but resist it actively. Schopenhauer called this the ultimate social paradox. Every society celebrates its geniuses after they're dead. Newton, Einstein, Marie Curie. We put them on pedestals now. But during their lives, Newton was notorious for his lack of friends. Einstein was called a fool by his teachers. Curie was rejected by the scientific establishment. This paradox shows up everywhere. Companies claim they want innovative thinkers, then reject ideas that challenge the status quo. Universities say they seek brilliant minds, then reward conformity over originality. Society needs progress, but fights the very people who create it. Schopenhauer explained that intelligence is the only form of power that can't be controlled or predicted. You can regulate wealth, limit physical strength, even manage beauty standards, but you can't control what a truly intelligent person might think or discover next. The rejection of intelligence isn't just a social phenomenon. It's biological, psychological, and cultural. It's wired into human nature, reinforced by group dynamics, and magnified by modern technology. This doesn't mean intelligent people should stop sharing their ideas, but it does mean they must recognize the forces working against them. For most of human history, survival wasn't about being the smartest. It was about being accepted. Our ancestors thrived in tribes where social harmony meant protection. To be cast out was to be vulnerable, and vulnerability often meant death. This is why the human brain prioritizes social acceptance over intellectual brilliance. When an exceptionally intelligent person enters a social setting, they unknowingly disrupt this tribal balance. Their presence challenges long-held beliefs, established norms, and group dynamics. To the human brain, this isn't just an intellectual shift. It's a perceived threat, triggering the same defensive response as physical danger. But understanding these forces doesn't mean intelligent people are doomed to isolation. Schopenhauer wasn't just pointing out problems. He was showing us a map. Once you understand why intelligence creates social friction, you can learn to navigate it better. First, recognize that you're not doing anything wrong by being intelligent. The reaction you get isn't personal. It's a natural social dynamic. Understanding this alone can lift a huge weight off your shoulders. Second, learn to read the room. There's a time and place for deep thinking. Save your most complex ideas for people and situations where they'll be appreciated. This isn't about dumbing yourself down. It's about choosing your moments wisely. Third, find your tribe. Schopenhauer noticed that truly intelligent people tend to form small, tight-knit groups. Today, with the internet, it's easier than ever to connect with minds that match yours. You don't need everyone to understand you, just enough people who do. Some of history's most successful intellectuals found ways to bridge this gap between intelligence and social acceptance. They developed specific strategies that we can learn from. Take Richard Feynman, the brilliant physicist. He became famous not just for his genius, but for his ability to make complex ideas accessible without dumbing them down. He used simple language and relatable examples, making his intelligence inviting rather than threatening. Ada Lovelace, often called the first computer programmer, created what she called social laboratories, gatherings where intelligent people could interact freely, while making others feel welcome to join and learn. She showed that intelligence doesn't have to be isolating if you create the right environment. Even Benjamin Franklin, despite his towering intellect, deliberately presented himself as a constant learner rather than an authority. He would often phrase his ideas as questions or suggestions, making his intelligence feel like a shared journey rather than a superior position. Being intelligent doesn't mean you're destined for loneliness. Schopenhauer wasn't telling us these things to make us feel hopeless. He was showing us reality so we could deal with it better. Think about some of history's greatest minds. Darwin spent years in isolation developing his ideas. Einstein worked in a patent office away from academia. Marie Curie faced constant resistance. Yet they all found ways to make an impact and, more importantly, to find fulfillment. The key isn't to hide your intelligence or pretend to be something you're not. It's about understanding the social dynamics at play and working with them. not against them. Sometimes that means stepping back. Other times it means finding the right audience. Always it means staying true to yourself while being smart about how you engage with others. Remember, just because society often resists intelligence doesn't mean it doesn't need it. Every major advance in human history came from someone who thought differently, who saw deeper, who dared to be smarter than average. That's not going to change. Let's take a closer look at how Schopenhauer's insights apply in today's world. Digital communication has created new challenges and opportunities for intelligent people. On one hand, social media algorithms reward emotional, simplified content over nuanced thinking. On the other, the internet has made it easier than ever to find intellectual communities that would have been impossible to access in Schopenhauer's time. The workplace presents similar contradictions. Companies claim to value innovation and creative thinking, yet organizational psychology shows that those who challenge established patterns often face subtle, or not so subtle, pushback. The culture-fit employees who reinforce existing norms frequently advance faster than those who question them. Even our educational systems demonstrate this paradox. Schools claim to nurture critical thinking, while standardized testing rewards conformity. The student who memorizes and repeats information scores higher than the one who challenges assumptions. Universities talk about valuing originality, while academic advancement often depends on reinforcing existing paradigms. Politics further confirms Schopenhauer's observations. Complex policy discussions get reduced to simplistic talking points. Politicians who offer nuanced perspectives get less traction than those who provide easy answers, regardless of accuracy. The public doesn't reward those who point out difficult truths. They reward those who tell them what they want to hear. The digital age has amplified this rejection of intelligence. Algorithms prioritize engagement over depth, pushing emotionally charged, simplistic content over nuanced intellectual discussions. Look at the most viral content. Short, catchy, and often misleading sound bites dominate while well-reasoned arguments struggle for visibility. The more intellectual someone is, the harder it becomes to condense deep ideas into bite-sized, viral-friendly formats. As a result, society increasingly gravitates toward entertainment rather than enlightenment, making it even harder for deep thinkers to find broad acceptance. But there's hope in understanding these dynamics. Schopenhauer himself proposed solutions that still apply today. Instead of viewing solitude as a punishment, he saw it as a privilege. He believed intellectuals should use their alone time for creative and philosophical pursuits, instead of seeking validation from society. He advised finding like-minded individuals instead of conforming to the mainstream. Whether through books, philosophy, or exclusive circles of thought, intelligent people can create their own communities where depth is valued. Perhaps most importantly, he urged engaging with society wisely. Not every place or person is ready for deep conversations. Save your most profound insights for those who truly appreciate them. You don't need millions of people to understand you, just the right ones. Schopenhauer viewed intelligence as a double-edged sword, both a source of power and an instrument of suffering. It enables one to perceive reality more clearly, but in doing so, creates distance from those who prefer comforting illusions. His philosophy confirms what many already suspect. Society doesn't fear intelligence itself. It fears what intelligence reveals. Deep thinkers aren't rejected because they're wrong. They're rejected because they're right, often too soon. So if you've ever felt alone in your thoughts, understand this. You are not broken. You simply see the world as it truly is. The challenge isn't to change who you are, but to find the people and places where your mind is valued rather than feared. If this message resonated with you, if you want deeper insights into psychology, philosophy, and human behavior, subscribe to our channel. Challenge yourself. Rise above. Become more. Like this video, share it with those who need to hear these truths, and let us know in the comments. Have you experienced the social backlash of intelligence, and what strategies have you used to overcome it? Let's discuss.